Over the last 7 years, I have tried every kind of marketing you can possibly imagine for my business. And I have determined over that time that direct mail has been by far the most profitable marketing channel I have ever tried. And I've spent over $1 million just testing it out, figuring out what works and figuring out what doesn't. And through that time, I've been able to generate over 100 deals per year in my business using direct mail. And now I've created a very small but very powerful mini course on how I utilize direct mail in my business. It explains everything I do from A to Z, and I've made this available to you absolutely free. That's right, no charge, no obligations. Just go to my website, MikeSimmons.com/winning direct mail. MikeSimmons.com/winning direct mail to find out how you can implement my system in your business and start generating more leads through direct mail. Go check it out. It's absolutely free. I can't wait for you to try it.
Honeywell and a couple other big companies try to recruit me, but I mean, I'm a broken employee at this point. You know what I mean? 2-3 years into entrepreneurship, man, like you're not fit for service.
You're listening to the Just Start Real Estate Podcast. If you're serious about your real estate investing business and need real answers, you are in the right place. And now, your host, Mike Simmons.
All right, thank you for being here on Just Start Real Estate. I appreciate you being here. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm excited, as always, to bring you another high-quality guest. We had a great conversation. I spoke to Rafael Cortez. He is primarily a wholesaler, it sounds like. He does some fix and flip stuff too. He has other investments and other things that he's up to. He runs a brokerage, so he does that traditional real estate as well. But we talked primarily about wholesaling systems and processes, where he gets his list, the software that he uses to drive leads, pretty much everything that he does in his business, all of the different departments, who he hired, what they do, who they manage, why they manage that person, and all of the KPIs that he uses to kind of keep it all together and to be moving forward successfully and to make good decisions in his business. It was a really, really information-packed show, and I'm excited to bring it to you. So without any further ado, I give you Rafael Cortez. All right, Rafael, man, thanks for being here. I appreciate you doing this. It is a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun in doing some research here and kind of going through some of my stuff, just kind of looking into you and who you are, because we have not met before this. So I always like to try to get up to speed with people, so I'm not asking, questions that were clearly answered in a bio or whatever on your website and on your podcast. And you've got a lot going on. But I know that you are among other things, you're a lot of stuff, but among other things, you're a wholesaler, and I'm a wholesaler. Right. So it should be a fun conversation. I'd love to dig into your business. I know you're about automations, but I don't want to go too far ahead. Let's spend just a minute real quickly kind of introducing yourself to the audience and who you are and where you come from and all that good stuff.
Well, I started real estate investments in 2009. I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Now I own multiple companies. One of them is a consulting company. I'm an organizational psychologist, so I do a lot of business coaching, consulting on that side. I have my wholesale company where we also fix and flip, and then I own a real estate brokerage. It's all based here in Phoenix. So in a nutshell, that's kind of like everything that I do, kind of compiled into.
Yeah, that's a lot too, because you're a youngish guy. You're not 50. I know that for sure. You're not 19, but you're somewhere in between, probably closer to 19 than 50, I would guess.
I'm hitting 40 this year, actually.
No way. You are really? Oh, wow. You look super young, dude. I thought you were. I just got the impression you were way younger than that.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah, that's a good thing, right? So organizational psychology, right? That's sort of like the thing that sticks out, like which one of these things are not like the others kind of thing. I get how the brokerage and wholesaling and fix and flip all kind of interweave, but how did the organizational psychology come about? Was that your career of choice early on? Was that what you went into right out of school?
No, actually, I my first career, I was a firefighter.
Okay.
So at 19, I joined the fire department in Yuma, Arizona, and then I launched my first business when I was 21 years old. So through my 20s, I was, I spent the whole time trying to build this medical transportation business, non-emergency, type of stuff. And during that time, I went back to school and I got my bachelor's in applied management. So the next thing was just, to transition it to, continue on with education, right? Like, okay, cool, I'll jump into a master's degree. Then I found out they actually, I wanted to study something that I enjoyed or that I was curious about. I really didn't really care for business management at that point anymore because I had the business and I had the other thing that I learned. So I was like, all right, I'm going to jump into psychology and went through that general psychology. And then I found out they had this thing called industrial organizational psychology, where they mix business and psychology together. And so it's kind of like my two passions, right? Yep. So it was just no brainer after that. So
at any point though, were you so man, you were moving fast at a young age. So you became a firefighter, and then you started this medical transportation company, which I guess is sort of maybe loosely related, or somehow you got the idea as a firefighter. And then industrial psychology. At any point was your goal? I know the answer is probably no, but I'm going to ask anyway. At any point was your goal to go into a company or an industry and become an industrial psychologist, or were you doing this to sort of help your entrepreneurial efforts?
No, I kind of did it unknowingly, right? So I was really focused in the business side of things, and I wanted to fine tune. I just wanted to get better at business. I figured, the vehicle is one thing, right? The nuts and bolts of the actual trade is one thing, but understanding business was different. I didn't have any mentors, and I wasn't paying for, seminars and stuff like that. So I just went the traditional route, first thing I could find. And it did help. But it wasn't really intended to go. Honeywell and a couple other big companies tried to recruit me, but I'm a broken employee at this point. You know what I mean? 2-3 years into entrepreneurship, man, like you're not fit for service.
Yeah, you become pretty unemployable. So
in the 9 to 5,
yeah, totally. So I'm going to go back to the firefighter thing for a minute. So you became a firefighter at 19. Was your goal ever to just be a firefighter and retire as a firefighter? Was that ever the goal, even day one, or did you always know you wanted to do something in business?
I can't say that I had a lot of foresight when I was 19 years old. It was just kind of like I come from a whole small town, so it was either becoming a cop, a correctional officer, a real estate agent, or a firefighter. And
okay, so you picked one of the three. A lot
more exciting. So I went in there, and I did love it. It's a great career, but I felt like I wanted more. After a couple of years in there, I just wanted to kind of, test my own waters per se. You know what I mean? Okay. Is this everything there is, or is there something else I can do? And then I started talking to one of my captains, and he was an entrepreneur, right? He had a couple of businesses aside from being a captain at the firehouse.
Okay.
And he just kind of planted the seed in my head of like, what if we were doing something else with the other 24 hours that we have every other day?
Right.
Well, let's roll with that. So that's kind of how the first business came about. Launched it. I relocated, moved to Phoenix, and launched that. Eventually, I had that for 8 years, and I sold it. In the interim, though, I started doing real estate investments. Bought a flip. Started fixing and flipping, and then I got into wholesaling after that. So I kind of started backwards there. But
gotcha. No, I did it the exact same way. I was a house flipper for 6 years, and then kind of switched to wholesaling. Common. I think it's a common misconception, but the common belief is that you start off as a wholesaler because you don't need to know anything or have any knowledge or money or experience. Or I'm being a little sarcastic. You don't have to know anything. You become a wholesaler, then you graduate to house flipper, and then you graduate to multifamily, and that's fine. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the way. I think wholesaling and flipping, to me, I see them as different but equal. They're not. One isn't a stepping stone to the other. So you started your medical transportation company. I know you sold that at some point. Was it? I know you're going to say you didn't pre-plan this, and you probably didn't. But did you start that company with the idea of selling it, or did you just decide at some point, all right, I want to move on. I don't want to run this business anymore?
I went through a lot of stuff in my 20s, especially while I was building this thing out. From everything from trying to figure out how to build a company, right? And then you're being young. There's things there's going to be a lot of friction, especially when you're trying to break into stuff like government contracts and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I was so focused in that hustle stage that there wasn't really a lot of brain, bandwidth to think, 5 years, 10 years down the road, right?
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to get, things rolling, and I kept putting myself in tough spots. How am I going to make payroll? I'm hiring people, I'm buying vehicles, I'm expanding, I'm, scaling and doing all these things. Just challenges that, were coming out of day to day. So it wasn't really to me, it was really a survival. My 20s were a survival stage. They would last about 3 months, right? I was living on 3-month increments. So, I mean, that's really kind of what it was. Eventually it got a little bit more applied and started thinking, okay, I'm going to sell the company because this is not enjoyable. Like this can't be it. I didn't leave a cool, fire department job to not be happy and joyful. Right. Yeah. But that hit me. And I don't know, I was maybe 26, 27. I started getting burned out. So that's when that thought just kind of crossed my head. And then I started planning for the exit strategy. That's where it really kicked in. Gotcha. It was years after I was already in it that, okay, I had to start running the business in a way that was sellable. Yeah, because I didn't have a sellable business at first. Yeah,
absolutely. Do you have that philosophy now with business that you want to kind of think ahead and make it sellable no matter what it is?
I mean, I'm probably going to get a two of this, but it's hustle is season. It's not a business strategy. Got it. So I'm a huge proponent in business processes and systems, right? And really building, even if you're not thinking of franchising or thinking of selling or thinking, of exiting your company, building it that way though, because when you have that degree of clarity, you have the ability to delegate and you have the ability to step out from the business. At this point, I'm running, for example, my wholesale business is ran on 90-minute meetings from my time, right? The team is doing everything, but just I spent years putting together systems and processes and all that stuff to get it to a point where it's delegatable. But we can't hustle forever. It's just not sustainable. Yeah, it's not.
I 100% agree. And I think that's why people think it's like wholesaling to flipping to maybe buy and holds to multifamily, because the goal is passive. But I've always argued, and I would think that we're on the same page here, a business like wholesaling, which is traditionally considered to be hustling, right? It's an active business. You can build it in a way that it is passive, a lot like other businesses that are traditionally considered passive. I know mine is too. I run my business off of a 30-minute meeting and usually another hour total during the week where I have to deal with something or talk something through with my team. But my right now, you and I have a team that I think are probably buying and selling properties right now while we're talking, right? And so it can be very, very passive. It's just, it's not it's not going to be passive day one. You have to build the systems and the processes, but it absolutely can be done. It's not necessarily, it's an active business, but it doesn't have to be your activity. It could be your team's activity. So
exactly. You get to a point, as entrepreneurs, I think we have the ability to empower, right? Yeah. If we empower the right people within our teams, and then they have something to go off of, you set your parameters, right? You set your criteria or the stuff that you're going to put up with, the degree of stuff that you're going to be putting up with. That's your systems, and you plug people into those those spots, and they can roll with it, right? Like they're gonna. I mean, I'm telling you, I have people on my team that know way more about certain aspects of the business than I do, and they're way better at that kind of stuff that I'm really not interested in becoming an expert in. Yeah. But it's very cool when you start to see the results of an empowered group of people around you. Yeah. Let's take things to a whole nother level.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You have a team that's running your business. What does it look like? What does your team consist of? Who do you have? What do they do?
So I'll give you the nuts and bolts, I guess, of the organizational structure. So I have this, CEO, it's me. I have a director of operations. He's the person that buys my time back. Mm-hmm. So he manages the rest of the team, right? So I talk to him. We have operations meetings every couple of weeks and just strategize and kind of, unkink the, whatever bottlenecks are happening. So I'm still taking part of the business. It's not like I'm disconnected and I'm off into the ether and not knowing what's going on. It doesn't roll that way. But I have the ability to come in and then see everything from about 50,000 square foot view, and then see different perspectives, different angles. What can we fine tune and tweak? And I love playing in that space. Yeah. So that's a director of operations. Right underneath him, we have 3 managers. One is a lead gen manager. Mm-hmm. And then I have acquisitions manager, and then a dispositions manager. And they have their own teams underneath them. But the managers, report to the operations director of operations.
Gotcha.
And we keep everything on track through KPIs and I'm a big scorecard guy, and accountability. I mean, when you have checks and measures in place, like the ability to keep everybody accountable is there. The transparency of performance is there. Like you see it.
100%. 100%. So you got these managers that have their teams beneath them that they manage. So like your dispo guy or gal, whoever it is, manages, I assume, like a transaction coordinator, somebody who interfaces with title companies and that kind of stuff. How big, do you know how big your team is total from top to bottom?
Yeah, so we go heavy into cold calling. So we do a lot of cold calling. Most of the team is going to be cold callers.
Okay.
We have 8 cold callers. They're in the Philippines. My lead manager runs them.
Okay.
So they report to her, and all the KPIs just kind of scale up the chain, right?
Yep.
So she manages them. My acquisitions manager, he has 2 reps that he manages.
Okay.
So basically, what's happening is we're sourcing leads, we're converting the leads into prospects, and then they get sent over to my acquisitions guy, and then they're distributed between the 3 of them.
Gotcha.
Aside from that, we have a transaction coordinator and then a dispo rep. My dispo manager, upholds on that contract.
So including your operations guy, it sounds like you have like 14, 15 people total, including your Philippines people.
Cold callers, yeah.
Yep. Is that your main method of driving leads, is cold calling?
We're having cold calling and then SMS right now, texting. Okay. You have to be, somewhat cautious on how you do it because compliance and all that stuff.
Yep.
It's easy to get red flagged, but I think right now we're driving an average of between 60 to 80 leads on a weekly basis to the business.
Okay.
And then we're converting around probably about 70, 72, 74% of those into prospects. So we have enough shots to take for the 3 reps on a weekly basis. And then you add the follow-ups and all that stuff. So they usually have, anywhere from 10 to 15 at least, conversations or meetings or appointments to handle on a daily basis. Yeah,
those follow-ups can start snowballing pretty fast, right?
Brother. I mean, I'm telling you, 70% of the deals that I've ever locked, it's they're coming from follow-ups.
For sure. Do the folks in the Philippines handle the SMS stuff also?
My lead manager does.
Okay, he or she does.
And we keep that throttled just because it's one of those touchy methods of marketing. So we try to keep it civil, and we'll send out. I think we're sending out maybe 2,500 text messages a day.
Okay.
So I think we're getting last KPIs for last week. I think we got about 24 leads from that.
Okay.
And then the rest were cold calling, and we have some Facebook ad campaigns that we're running and all that stuff. But the 2 core elements of marketing in our company, it's cold calling and then SMS. Gotcha.
And I assume cold calling drives the majority of the deals, or is it like heavily? Okay, that's what I figured. That's most people I talk to. It's SMS is good. It's supplementary. It's not it's not your bread and butter necessarily.
And I made a mistake a while back. I mean, a few months back where I went really, really heavy into cold calling, or I'm sorry, SMS, text messaging. And then they really just choked it when it came to red flags and the carriers got smarter about keywords and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it just halted our lead generation. And I'm telling you, I mean, I spent, I think maybe a month and a half trying to fix that stuff.
Okay.
And still go at the same volume.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. So our leads really took a hit.
Yeah.
Went back and then just hired a bunch of people on cold calling like I was doing before. And that's sustainable, right? Like that's, if you want longevity in marketing, have that and then add additional bolt-on pieces like SMS, Facebook ads, Google, ads or whatever. But
gotcha. Okay. Who do you use, if you don't mind my asking? And if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to, but I assume you do. You're a real estate coach too. Your SMS company, who do you use for that software?
So we are right now we're using Launch Control.
Launch Control. Yeah, I've heard they're pretty good.
Yeah, Launch Control for SMS.
Okay.
That's what we use for SMS. For data, we use Batch Leads. That's where we pull the data that we're gonna, cold call and send out.
Are you using like a power dialer or something, like Mojo or something to dial up?
We started with Mojo and then we transitioned through a couple of different ones. Right now, what we're using works very well is ZenCall.
Yeah, that's what
Ready Mode.
Yeah. It's called Ready Mode now. Is that did they change it? Yeah. So the folks that I know that are doing primarily cold calling are using that. That's exactly what they're using. Yeah, it's good software.
And I don't know, I geek out on stats, but if you're using per seat, right, this is what we're seeing. So per seat, we expect if you have a cold caller, we expect 400 calls a day through the Zen call seat. 400 calls a day. They got to be having, I think, the connection rate for Zen-Call, and just based off of data that we're pulling off of batch leads. So we're very methodical in the stuff that we collect. That way the KPIs make sense.
Yeah.
And we'll switch like one element or one factor at a time just to kind of keep gauge of what's working. So anyways, but we're pulling data from batch leads. We're calling through Zen-Call, and the connection rate is 82%.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a connection rate. I mean, it's pretty high for cold calling.
Pretty high.
You keep it clean. So out of that, we have we got to end up with 3 leads, 2 to 3 leads a day on average. So that's what we're looking for from the cold calling team.
So batch leads gives you phone numbers, I assume, or do you have to go out and skip trace those?
Yeah,
okay.
With batch skip tracing, the same. Yeah, same company. They have a couple of different verticals.
Gotcha. I've never used them. I'm not aware of that. Okay.
Oh yeah. They're solid when it comes to data.
Okay.
Their match rate is pretty high.
Nice.
So I mean, those are kind of like the stats that we look for through Ready Mode.
Do you track or do you coach your people to like call times? Like do you know how long on average they're spending on the phone with a lead?
We'll run back and get reports. At the end of the day, like you have key performance indicators, and then you have navigators, right? The call time is going to be a navigator. It's not really a KPI because you can throttle that and it can be a lagging indicator and whatnot. But I mean, we just go off of KPIs. So there's a minimum standard, or there's a standard that we have in place, right?
Yeah.
400 connections. We know that if you're, somewhat, productive, you're going to be able to have, 82%. So the metric that we call for is actually 80, but the average is 82%. And then just end up with 2 to 3 leads on a regular basis, like every per seat a day, right?
Gotcha.
So that's what we're looking for. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it just becomes a lot more manageable than micromanaging, for example, times. And if you only called for 7 hours and 45 minutes as opposed to 8.
That sort of thing. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's smart. I think having KPIs and tracking this stuff makes it so much easier to manage and for people to understand if they're successful or if they're being successful in your system based on what you expect of them. So it's very, you sound like you're using language that makes me think that perhaps you're using traction. Is that something that you use, or is it something other than that you're using to kind of run your business?
No. So I have, I've been following track, or I've been doing tractions forever, right?
Yeah.
But to that, I added a couple of different systems, and it's actually part of the organizational psychology practice when we get into the business aspect of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you understand traction and all those things at a deeper level just because you know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Cool side note, I just had Gino Wickman on the podcast too. I was super stoked about that.
Yep. Yeah. I had him on my podcast about 1.5 years ago. Awesome episode. He's a really fun interview. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. He's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about that. How do you run? What kind of systems are most important, or you have found to be most valuable looking back? Like, what are you glad that you started doing, and what are some of those systems that you hold as being part of the reason for your success?
I think understanding the stages of, and if we go into wholesaling, right? Understanding the stages of a deal is big, right? And I take that and I apply it back into, I had the transportation business. There were different stages in that business as well. But understanding where the stages go and being able to just create a systematic approach. I mean, the thing that makes the most sense to me ever is really the Ford assembly line, right? If you have the ability to put something together in a linear fashion, now think about this. Psychologically, we're not wired to think linear. We're dynamic beings. Our thoughts all over the place and whatnot. But when we get routed, and we have the ability to clarify step 1, step 2, step 3, like that's huge, right? So when you bring that into a business like wholesaling, where things can be messy, or just real estate in general, right? And you have the ability to segment those. It's really a game changer. So that's when that hit me, and I broke it down into 6 different stages, just the way that I run my business. But that to me was a big, game changer when it came to delegation, when it came to having the clarity of what roles I'm going to hire for, what accountability to keep up, and then finding the bottlenecks of the business as I'm going through any transaction. So,
now, you said you broke it down into 6 stages. What are those stages?
Number one is going to be sourcing. So we don't call it marketing or anything. It's just sourcing sellers.
Okay.
So that's where the cold calling comes in, where SMS comes in, pay per click. Any lead generation activities are happening there. So basically, what that is for us is somebody raises their hand, they're interested in an offer. Boom, they're sourced. Yep. There's no pre-qualification or anything else. From that point, they get sent over to my lead manager. She has a deeper conversation with them and she's converting them into prospects. So we source to leads and then we convert to prospects. Okay. And that's a whole discovery conversation that's happening. It's taking place there. She keeps them on follow-up campaigns and actual follow-ups and that sort of thing until they get ready, because we pre-qualify based on 4 things: condition, timeline, motivation, and price. So when they're ready to move forward, now a prospect, they have 3 things in there that match that we can have a conversation on. Yeah. Then they go to acquisitions, and that's stage 3, right? So first one is sourcing, 2 is converting, 3 is acquisitions, and that's where really like the bread and the potatoes of the whole thing happen. That's, you have deeper discovery conversations, the real problem that's happening, how can we come in and solve it? Yep. Of course, you start negotiating numbers and that sort of thing. The one thing to do there is lock up the contract, get a signature, and then of course goes on over to dispo. And the crazy thing, Mike, is that most deals or most wholesale companies stop at the dispo stage. They get that settlement statement, they get it wired in, they have the money in the funds, and then boom, they go back to, okay, let's find another seller.
Yep.
And I think you're missing a lot of the gold that can be extracted from any business, right? Because when you track, which is measuring, that's the 5th one. Okay. When you measure your efforts, you have the ability to know what happened, right? Okay, where are we doing good? What are the KPIs? What do we need to do on a regular basis to reverse engineer this result that we're trying to get to? And then the 6th one is an improvement stage. So we actually have sessions on especially in the managers meeting and operations meeting, where we talk about just deals that are outside of the niche. Okay, this one was a little different. That was a commercial deal, or that was a land deal that gave us, $78,000-$80,000. What did we do right on that deal? Yeah. What can we turn into a process, or can we just build into the SOP, standard operating procedures? And how can we just make the whole flow better? So it's 6 stages that really paint the picture for me in my head. Okay, if I know that if I need to come up with some training or something, I know which section it's going to go into. Yeah. Again, it's sourcing, it's conversion, acquisitions, dispo, measuring, and improving. So nice. Those are the 6. And the cool thing about having something like that in place, and I used a similar model in my brokerage. And I used a similar model for even my coaching and social media stuff. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, the cool thing is that you find out like where your bottlenecks are, where your areas of deficit are, and it's not just this one cluster of information all over the place. So you can actually pinpoint. Okay, cool. We don't have enough deals to dispo. Okay, what do we have enough deals that made it over to acquisitions? The answer is yes. Then there's something going on in acquisitions. We're not locking enough. Is that a training thing? Is it an attitude thing? Yeah. If we don't have enough deals that made it to acquisitions, okay, did we have enough leads get converted to prospects? So you keep going one step back, right? Yeah. But you're able to figure out where the bottlenecks are. Yeah. Anyways, just running like a business. It took me a while to come to terms with the actually get that chip on my shoulder that said I was a hustler, and it felt that. I don't know. It's not sustainable, right? Yeah, and really start thinking as an entrepreneur. It takes a pivot. It takes a mind shift.
I love it. What do you tell people? Because I know you talk to folks a lot. What do you tell people that say the market's too hot? There's nobody selling at a discount. You can't wholesale in this environment. What do you tell people?
The first case study would be us. We're in Maricopa County, which is Phoenix. It's one of the most competitive markets. There's so many wholesalers here. There's gurus. There's, just about, it's Guru Central and and everybody's just, making offers and whatnot. We still get on average about 12 deals a month. Okay. In the Valley. So, and that's, again, it's an operation that's, you could scale it if I plugged more people into that sourcing stage, but it's a good number, right? It's a good, healthy number for me, but the deals are out there. If you can do this in a market as competitive as Phoenix, trust me, you're going to be able to do it in other markets. Yeah. I have, students that crush it in ATL and Florida, California. It's about taking action and then really giving it enough time to work. People do this for I don't know, 4 weeks, right? And they haven't gotten a deal, and now this is crap. Doesn't work. I'm
right.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. So you're getting 12 deals a month on average. You're cold calling them. We established that. Who are you cold calling? What's the criteria?
Everybody and their mom, actually. So,
but you're not just opening. You're not cold calling everybody. There's got to be a criteria.
We have we have big, massive campaigns going on, right? And what I mean, you can dial the leads if you're looking for example, like a niched out list. One thing to consider: every time you plug in a cold caller to an operation, you have to make sure you have enough data behind that. You have to make sure that there's enough, supporting material to help that person succeed, right?
Yeah.
With that being said, when we started doing just adding people to the cold calling, we would get niched out campaigns, and we went for the traditional stuff, vacant stuff, absentee owners. One list that I really like it's code violations list. They're just harder to get a hold of. They usually, you won't find them online, or that's why they work. But if you go to, for example, your city Department of Works and Public Works, they'll give you a lot of them, most of them will give you a code violation list. You have to be a little nice to the ladies and at the office and that sort of thing, but they'll give it to you. And oftentimes it's just going to be like in PDF format, but these are people who have code violations on their property. There's, grass that hasn't been mowed. It's, roofs that need to be fixed, and they got a notice from the city. That's been a very profitable list for us. We get that on a regular basis. We go through a process of actually putting into a spreadsheet, then skip tracing. Well, I don't, but we have VAs that do.
Sure.
And it's a really good niched out list to go after. Another list that we like, it's we'll still do pre-foreclosure stuff, just in a that's the only campaign that we'll do direct mail for.
Okay.
Just because it's niched out, but we like 60-day lates. If you go to your title agency, a lot of times they can give you a list of 60-day lates, meaning people who are 60-day late on their mortgage. They haven't hit that 90 mark. So they haven't, there's no notice of pre-foreclosure going on. So they're still not, the masses are not on top of them. But those are indicators, right? They're headed that way. So 60-day lates list is a really good one.
And you get that from a title company?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do, for that, I think we have Fidelity. We pull those from Fidelity National Title in Phoenix. And Fidelity's all over the place. So they might be, a good contact. Nice. So those two lists are really good. What we do, and if you take a look, I love the Batch family of services. They're just really good. But they have a service called Batch Leads, and what you do is you add all your lists in there, and you start stacking them. So, for example, if you have a code violation list, if you have tax default list, absentee owner list, right? Now you have 3 or 4 or 5 lists. You throw them all into the software that they have, and it'll just compile all the information in there and tell you, like, hey, listen, Johnny Joe is on 3 of these lists.
Yeah, he's in
now
trouble.
That's exactly. Exactly. Now you have 3 pain points, right? Because if you think about it, every single list that we pull is a pain point. When we're pulling an absentee owner list, that's a pain point. When we're pulling a foreclosure list, that's a pain point, right? So I don't know, we stack them, and then we'll do campaigns based on who's got the most. I think we go to a 6+. So 6 lists, we begin at 6+.
Wow.
So people who are in 6 lists or more, and then run through that, and then 5 lists or more.
Gotcha. 6 lists. You are a bona fide disaster. Your life is out of control if you're on 6 of these niche lists.
And it's insane. Yeah, I think we have about close to 11 or 1.1 million record, 1.2 million records in there at this point, right? Just because we compile all the data and we keep throwing everything in there. But we just dropped a campaign. I think we started that one in March or February, but that was a 6+ list. And then we just kind of progressively kept, dialing it back. I think right now we're at the 3+ campaign. We already hit those people.
Nice. That's awesome, man. And that's getting you 12 deals a month on average. That's awesome. That's huge. That's like you said, you're in Phoenix, right? It's competitive as all get out. So there's no excuse, right, for anybody. I think the market excuse is a weak one. It's just somebody looking for a reason to not take action, honestly, because
I agree.
You're talking to people that are on these niche lists, and they have life events that are happening, right? They're like behind on mortgage, their house is out of control, and the city's all over them. Like, these problems are irrespective of whatever market you're in, these things happen all the time. And people who we buy from, and I say we, I mean you and I as wholesalers, they're not looking to get top dollar for their house, or we wouldn't be able to buy them. These are people who have bigger problems, and getting their house sold represents solving problems. And it's not always about getting all the money that they can possibly get. And, a lot of wholesalers like you and I talk to are afraid that they're going to list it and I won't get the deal because they're going to list it. We go in and just say, hey, why don't you list on the MLS? You'll get more money, right? And you just throw it out there, get that big elephant, that's in the room out there, and they'll tell you why they can't. And they'll say, oh, I tried, my realtor said my house is in bad shape, or I got to sell by the end of the month, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. So they'll basically tell you what you can come back and remind them of at the end of this conversation when you're talking price, and they're like, oh, I think I can get more. Yeah, I told you should put it on the MLS, right? Well, but you can't do that because you need to be out by the end of the month. And so, people who use the economy or the president or the market as an excuse, it's just they're looking for a way out. So you can do this in any market. I've done it in up and down markets, and I know people that have been this a lot longer than I have, and they've been wholesaling for a lot longer than I have, and they've done it in every single market. So it all works, man. I could talk to you about this all day. I think you're a smart guy. You obviously have systems in place. I love when I talk to wholesalers or people that understand wholesaling can be passive, just like any other form of investing, if you build your team and if you build it to sell, basically, right? If people want to find you online or anywhere else, how can they find you? How should they do that?
I'm very active on social. I drop a lot of content, videos and YouTube and on wholesaling, on mindset, on just entrepreneurship. And that's Rafael Cortez, CEO. That's my YouTube channel. Okay. Rafael Cortez, CEO. And then same thing for Instagram and Facebook and all the rest is Rafael Cortez, CEO.
Awesome. Yeah. And go check out the website of the same name, right? RafaelCortez.net. Is that what it is?
No, it's actually we have, if you want to, information about wholesaling and whatnot, it's reiwholesaling.com.
reiwholesaling.com. Got it. All right, man. Rafael, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate you being on the show. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the transparency. I asked you some very specific questions about software and lists and things. And I know I've had people on where it makes them a little uncomfortable and they hesitate. You just plowed right in and told me exactly what you're doing. And that's cool. I can't even thank you enough for that.
Yeah, no, not a problem, man. That's paid for, right?
Exactly.
You're a go-giver.
Exactly. Well, listen, go check Rafael out on social, go to his website, and go get involved in his world. He's a smart guy. You will be glad you did, and your business will be better for having plugged into him and his processes and systems. Rafael, thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mike.
All right, man. Thank you. All right, that was a lot of fun. He really dished. I asked him some very specific questions about where he's getting leads, the kind of list, all that stuff, and he just threw it out there. And sometimes I ask those questions. I'm not sure how specific people are going to get, and sometimes they don't get specific. They kind of avoid and navigate around carefully, but Rafael went right for it and told us exactly what list he's using, what software he's using, what his KPIs are. It's very cool. It's very helpful, obviously, for you guys listening, and it makes the interview way more fun for me as well. So hopefully you guys will take that information and apply it to your business and use it to get better. But you have to use it, which means you have to be doing something. So if you're sitting on the sidelines, now's the time to get off the sidelines. And if you want to find out some other ways where you can get leads, Rafael uses cold calling, and direct mail is another really great way to do it. And if you want to find out how to do direct mail and do it successfully, go to my website, mikesimmons.com/winning direct mail. That's mikesimmons.com/winning direct mail. I have a free video series for you. Go check it out, learn how to do it. But in any case, guys, do something. Get out there and make today the best day. We'll talk to you next time.